My name is Eugene Barrett, 58 years old, and I teach American history at Lincoln High in Portland. 3 years ago, I lost my wife Martha to cancer, leaving a void nothing can fill. Among the memories we shared, her gold heart locket was my most precious possession. That necklace was all I had left of her physical presence. My relationship with my daughter Audrey has been strained since Martha passed. Nothing prepared me for the day I discovered the necklace missing and heard Audrey's cold confession. I never imagined what would happen next. If you're watching this story, please let me know where you're tuning in from and hit subscribe to join me for more life lessons learned the hard way. Martha and I were high school sweethearts who found each other sophomore year during debate club. Her logical mind and compassionate heart made her the perfect counterpoint to my more idealistic nature. We married right after college, settling in Portland, where she became a pediatric nurse while I pursued my passion for teaching history. The gold heart locket entered our lives on our first anniversary, when I saved for months to buy it. Martha's eyes lit up when she opened that small velvet box. "Eugene, it's perfect," she whispered as I fastened it around her neck. That necklace became part of her daily uniform, nestled against her scrubs during long hospital shifts. Martha wore that locket through 30 years of marriage, through the birth of our daughter Audrey, through my father's passing, through every moment, big and small. The gold heart held our history, becoming almost an extension of Martha herself. When the breast cancer diagnosis came, Martha was 48. We thought she was too young, too healthy, too needed. The 5 years that followed were a roller coaster of hope and despair. Remission, then recurrence. New treatments, then failure. Through it all, Martha would grasp that locket during painful procedures, as if drawing strength from our love story, contained within. In her final days at home under hospice care, Martha would often ask me to hold the locket when the pain became too much. "Feel this with me, Eugene," she'd say. "Remember what matters." After Martha passed peacefully in our bedroom, surrounded by photos of our life together, I carefully removed the necklace for the first time in years. It held the warmth of her skin, and I couldn't bear to put it away. Instead, I created a small display on our dresser, where I could touch it each morning as part of my new ritual of living without her. Audrey took her mother's death hard. At 23, she had been particularly close with Martha, who always seemed to understand our daughter in ways I struggled to. Martha had been the bridge between us, translating my old-fashioned values for our more modern daughter. Without that bridge, the distance between us grew. I tried my best to maintain our connection. Weekly breakfasts helping with her apartment rent when needed, listening to her job frustrations. But something fundamental had changed. The sweet girl who once loved history books and hiking with me had become increasingly focused on material things. Her friends were all from a wealthier set, and she seemed embarrassed by my modest teacher's lifestyle. After graduating with a business degree, Audrey cycled through jobs never seeming satisfied. Each position was abandoned for something that promised more money, less work, or better connections. She began calling me more frequently for loans that we both knew would never be repaid. "Your mother would want you to be happy," I would say while writing another check. But privately, I wondered if Martha would recognize the entitled young woman our daughter was becoming. The night before Martha died, she made me promise 2 things to take care of Audrey and to keep our small family together. "She needs you more than either of you realize," Martha whispered. I swore I would honor these requests, though I had no idea how difficult they would become. Our modest 2-bedroom home in southeast Portland remained largely unchanged after Martha's passing. Her gardening books, still lined the shelves. Her handwriting still marked the growth chart in the kitchen doorway, and her presence lingered in every corner. Some friends suggested I move to a new place to start fresh, but I couldn't bear to leave the home where we had built our life together. The gold heart locket was unique in every detail. About the size of a quarter, it was crafted from 14-carat gold with intricate filigree along the edges. The front bore an engraving of intertwining roses, while the back was inscribed with the words, "Forever begins today," and our wedding date. The delicate gold chain was 20 inches long, allowing the heart to rest perfectly against Martha's chest. This necklace had its own history before us. Martha's mother had received it from her grandmother, who brought it from Ireland during the potato famine. While not monetarily valuable compared to fine jewelry, its sentimental worth was immeasurable. Martha often told me how her mother had given it to her on her 18th birthday, with the words, "May your heart always be as full as this locket is precious." During her cancer treatments, Martha developed a habit of holding the locket during difficult moments. While waiting for test results, she would rub her thumb across the engraved roses. During chemotherapy, she would close her eyes and touch the heart, transporting herself away from the sterile hospital environment. The nurses noticed and would gently work around the necklace, understanding its importance to their colleague-turned-patient. After Martha passed, that locket became my most tangible connection to her. Each morning I would touch it and say, "Good morning, sweetheart," as if she could somehow feel my presence through this small gold object. Some might call it superstition, but for a widower navigating the landscape of grief, it was a necessary ritual. On a few special occasions, I allowed Audrey to wear the necklace. Her college graduation, her 25th birthday dinner, a cousin's wedding. Each time I noticed how she seemed to stand taller, wearing her mother's legacy. But I also noticed how quickly she would return it, lacking the reverence Martha had shown for the family heirloom. One evening, about 2 years after Martha's passing, Audrey and I were looking through old photo albums when she first asked if she could have the locket permanently. "Mom would want me to have it," she said. While this was probably true, something in her casual tone made me hesitate. "Your mother once told you the locket would be yours when the time was right," I replied carefully. "I don't think that time is now, honey." Audrey didn't press the issue that night, but over the following year, she would occasionally comment on the necklace. "It's just sitting there collecting dust, or I could actually wear it, you know." Each time I felt a growing unease about her motivations. My friend Harold, who lost his wife 5 years before I lost Martha, understood my attachment to the locket. "Some things become sacred after they're gone," he said during one of our fishing trips. "It's not about the object, it's about the connection." My colleague Diane from the English department noticed me touching my wedding ring one day after a difficult parent-teacher conference. "We all have talismans," she said kindly. "Mine is Paul's reading glasses. I keep them on my nightstand, even though he's been gone 8 years. To keep the necklace safe, I created a special hiding place in my bedroom. Behind the framed wedding photo on our dresser was a small wall safe installed years ago for Martha's grandmother's ring. Only Martha, Audrey, and my sister Janet knew the combination. The locket stayed there when not on display, protected physically but always present emotionally. As the 3rd anniversary of Martha's passing approached, I began considering that perhaps it was indeed time to give Audrey the necklace. She had recently started a promising job at a marketing firm and seemed more settled. I thought perhaps the responsibility of carrying her mother's most precious possession might help her connect with the values Martha had embodied. I planned to give it to her during our private memorial on the anniversary date, completing a circle of love and remembrance. The Lincoln High School Founders Dinner happens every May, honoring retiring teachers and awarding scholarships to promising students. As department chair, I was expected not only to attend, but to give a short speech. This year, I decided to bring Martha's locket with me tucked into my suit pocket as a source of strength and connection. The morning of the event, I put on my best navy suit, the one Martha had insisted I buy despite the price tag. "You look distinguished," she had said, smoothing the lapels. I selected a blue tie that matched her eyes and prepared to retrieve the locket from its safe place. When I moved the wedding photo and opened the small safe, the emptiness hit me like a physical blow. The velvet pouch that normally held the locket was there, but it lay flat and lifeless. I reached in, hoping against hope that the necklace had somehow slipped out of the pouch, but my fingers found nothing but cold metal. "This can't be happening," I whispered to the empty room. I emptied the safe completely, checking every corner. Nothing. I began searching the dresser top, then the floor, then the entire bedroom. Perhaps I had absent-mindedly taken it out recently, but I knew this wasn't true. The locket had been safely stored for weeks. Panic rising, I called my sister Janet. "Is it possible you borrowed it for some reason?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Eugene, I haven't been to your house in 3 weeks," she replied, concern evident in her voice. Could Audrey have taken it? I didn't want to believe that possibility. But who else knew about the safe? Who else had the combination? The founder's dinner completely forgotten. I continued tearing apart my bedroom, then the living room, then Martha's old craft room. Hours passed as I searched increasingly unlikely locations, my historian's mind cataloguing every possibility except the most obvious one. Finally, as evening fell, I called the school to apologize for my absence, claiming a sudden illness. Principal Walters was understanding, but I could hear the disappointment in his voice. I had never missed an important school function in 26 years of teaching. I spent the night alternating between anger, grief, and disbelief. The locket had survived Martha's entire battle with cancer, had been carefully preserved after her death, only to vanish now. It felt like losing her all over again. My home had no signs of forced entry. The safe wasn't damaged. There were only 3 people in the world who knew the combination, and 2 of them wouldn't have taken the necklace without telling me. As dawn broke after a sleepless night, I faced the truth I had been avoiding. Audrey must have taken the locket. But why would she simply take it, rather than ask? I had been considering giving it to her anyway. The violation of trust hurt almost as much as the loss itself. Saturday morning was our standing breakfast date at Millie's diner. I considered cancelling, but decided a face-to-face conversation was necessary. I arrived early, hands shaking slightly as I sipped black coffee, and waited. Audrey bounced in 20 minutes late, wearing new designer sunglasses and a blouse I didn't recognize. "Sorry I'm late, Dad. Traffic was crazy." She kissed my cheek casually, seemingly oblivious to my distress. I studied my daughter as she ordered her usual avocado toast and latte. At 26, she looked increasingly like her mother, the same heart-shaped face and expressive brown eyes. But where Martha's expressions had always conveyed warmth and consideration, Audrey's often showed impatience and self-absorption. "How are things at the new job?" I asked, searching for any clues in her behavior. "It's fine, the pay isn't what I hoped, but the connections are good." She scrolled through her phone as she spoke, only half engaged in our conversation. "Any special plans coming up?" I probed gently. At this, she lit up, finally putting down her phone. "Actually, yes. Some friends from work are going to Cancun next month, and I managed to get on the trip. It's going to be amazing." I nodded slowly, noticing her expensive new clothes with growing suspicion. That sounds expensive, especially on a new job salary. She shrugged. You only live once, right? I've been wanting a real vacation forever. As our food arrived, I decided to be direct. Audrey, I need to ask you something important. Do you know where your mother's locket is? It's missing from the safe. Her eyes flickered down to her plate, the first tell. Why would I know anything about that? Maybe you misplaced it. The safe was locked and only 3 people know the combination. Janet hasn't been to the house in weeks. I kept my voice steady, giving her the chance to be honest. Audrey pushed her food around with her fork, avoiding eye contact. Maybe you should check again. Things turn up. I've turned the house upside down, I said, my patience wearing thin. Audrey, please, that locket means everything to me. If you know something, tell me now. The silence between us stretched uncomfortable seconds into eternity. Finally, she looked up, a hardness in her eyes I hadn't seen before. The necklace was sold. I needed the money for a vacation. Are you happy now? The diner seemed to freeze around us. A waitress dropping off coffee refills paused briefly, sensing the tension before discreetly moving away. I sat perfectly still, afraid that if I moved, I might shatter completely. You sold your mother's necklace, my voice emerged as a whisper, for a vacation. Audrey's defensiveness rose immediately. Mom's dead, Dad. It was just collecting dust in your room. Meanwhile, I'm trying to live my life. The casual cruelty of her words struck me physically. I pressed my hand against my chest, feeling a tightness that had nothing to do with my heart condition and everything to do with heartbreak. That necklace was the most precious thing your mother owned. She wore it through our entire marriage, through your childhood, through her illness. My voice trembled with emotion. How could you think it was yours to sell? Mom would have wanted me to be happy, not clinging to the past like you do. Audrey's voice was rising now, drawing glances from nearby tables. She always said the locket would be mine someday, anyway. When the time was right, I corrected. Not stolen and sold for a beach vacation. I didn't steal it. I'm family. You can't steal what's going to be yours eventually. Her logic was so twisted, so self-serving, that I hardly recognized the daughter we had raised. Where did you sell it? I asked, trying to maintain control. What does it matter? It's done. Audrey Elizabeth Barrett. I rarely used her full name, and it had the desired effect of making her straighten in her seat. Tell me where you sold your mother's necklace. She rolled her eyes dramatically. Hillside Pawn, okay. But they've probably already sold it to someone else. The reality of what she had done was starting to fully register. When did you take it? Last week when you were at that teachers' conference. I stopped by to borrow your lawnmower, remember? She made air quotes around borrow, as if admitting to a pattern of taking things without permission. I remembered. I had been in Seattle for 3 days. She had texted asking to use the lawnmower, but was gone by the time I returned. I had thought nothing of it, grateful she was taking care of her own yard for once. How much did you get for it? The question was painful but necessary. $800. She said it like it was an impressive sum, as if she'd made a clever business deal. $800. The necklace that had rested against Martha's heart for 30 years, that had absorbed her tears during chemotherapy, that had been passed down through generations, had been valued at $800. The absurdity of it made me want to laugh and cry simultaneously. The trip costs $2,500, Audrey continued, apparently missing my devastation. So I needed to come up with the money somehow. It's not like you would have loaned it to me for this. You're right about that much, I said quietly. I wouldn't have, but I might have given you the $800 if you had just asked rather than stealing a priceless family heirloom." "Oh, please," she scoffed. "It's not priceless. It's just an old necklace that you're obsessed with because you can't move on." My hands formed fists on the table. That old necklace was going to be yours one day. I was actually planning to give it to you on the anniversary of your mother's passing next month. That information finally penetrated her defenses. She blinked rapidly, her confidence faltering. "What? Why didn't you tell me that? Because it was meant to be a meaningful moment between us, not a transaction." I took a deep breath. "And because I wanted to be sure you would treasure it the way your mother did." Clearly, I was right to wait. "Don't make me the bad guy here." Audrey's voice turned sharp again. "You've been keeping Mom's things like some kind of shrine. It's unhealthy. My therapist says you're stuck in your grief and holding me back, too." I hadn't even known Audrey was seeing a therapist. Another detail of her life that had slipped past our increasingly superficial relationship. "I'm not stuck in grief," I said carefully. "I'm preserving memories. There's a difference." "Whatever. The necklace is gone, and honestly, it's probably better this way. Clean break." She glanced at her watch. "I need to go. I have a hair appointment." She stood up, gathering her designer purse. "Don't worry about the check. I'll get it. Consider it an apology." The pathetic gesture only underscored how completely she had missed the point. "Where is this pawn shop?" I asked before she could leave. "Hillside Pawn on Burnside Street." But seriously, Dad let it go. And with that final piece of unwanted advice, she walked out, leaving me alone with my coffee gone cold and my heart in pieces. My neighbor Dave found me still sitting on my porch steps an hour later, staring blankly at the rose bushes Martha had planted. He was walking his golden retriever, who immediately sensed my distress and placed his head in my lap. "Eugene, you okay, buddy?" Dave's concerned face swam into focus. "Audrey sold Martha's locket," I said simply. The dog whined softly as if understanding. Dave sat beside me, his solid presence a comfort. "Oh, hell, Eugene. That's just wrong. $800 for a vacation to Cancun." The words still didn't seem real. "Did she say where she sold it?" "Maybe you can buy it back." "Someplace called Hillside Pawn." Dave's expression brightened slightly. "My buddy Ray owns that place. He's a good guy, not like some of those predatory shops. Call him. He might hold it for you." For the first time since discovering the theft, I felt a flicker of hope. "You think so? Worth a shot? Want me to come with you?" I shook my head, finally standing up. "No, but thank you. This is something I need to do alone." As Dave and his dog continued their walk, I went inside and looked up the pawn shop's number. With trembling fingers I dialed, praying it wasn't already too late to recover the one thing that kept Martha close to me. Hillside Pawn occupied a corner storefront in a transitioning neighborhood. Once rough around the edges, the area was now filling with artisanal coffee shops and vintage clothing stores. The pawn shop itself looked like a holdover from an earlier era, with barred windows and a faded sign advertising Loans Jewelry Electronics. I parked my 10-year-old Subaru at the curb and sat for a moment, gathering my courage. The thought of Martha's precious locket sitting in a display case alongside used guitars and power tools made my stomach churn. But if there was any chance of recovering it, I had to try. A bell jangled as I pushed open the heavy door. Inside the shop was surprisingly well organized and clean, defying the stereotype of cluttered, dingy pawn shops from television. Glass cases lined the walls containing jewelry watches and small electronics. Larger items like tools and musical instruments occupied the center of the store. Behind the counter stood an older man with silver hair and kind eyes magnified by thick glasses. He looked up from a ledger as I entered. "Good afternoon. What can I help you with today?" I approached slowly, trying to formulate my request. "Are you Ray?" I asked. He nodded, studying me with increased interest. "That's me." "Have we met before?" "No, but I'm a neighbor of Dave Miller. He mentioned you might be able to help me." I took a deep breath. "My daughter sold a gold heart locket here yesterday. It belonged to my late wife, and it was taken without my permission." Ray's expression softened immediately. "I'm very sorry to hear that Mr. Barrett, Eugene Barrett." "Mr. Barrett, we do have strict procedures for items that come through our shop. Can you describe the locket in detail?" I closed my eyes, picturing the necklace that had been part of my daily life for decades. It's a 14-carat gold heart locket about the size of a quarter. The front has engraved roses, and the back is inscribed with "Forever Begins Today," and the date June 12th, 1988. Ray nodded slowly. "Yes, we did receive an item matching that description yesterday afternoon. A young woman brought it in." Hope surged through me. "Do you still have it?" Ray's expression turned regretful. "We do, but I'm afraid it's already been processed into our system. We have a policy that requires a 48-hour waiting period before we can reverse a transaction." My heart sank. "Please, you don't understand. This necklace was my wife's most treasured possession. She wore it through 30 years of marriage and through her entire battle with cancer. It's irreplaceable." Ray removed his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "Mr. Barrett, I truly sympathize with your situation. The best I can do is put a hold on the item so it won't be sold, and you can purchase it back on Monday." "How much?" I asked, dreading the answer. "We gave $800 for it, so with our standard markup it would be priced at $1,200. $400 more than what Audrey had received. Money that would essentially be lost because of my daughter's selfishness. But what choice did I have? I'll come back Monday with the money," I said, defeated but determined. Ray scribbled something on a notepad. "I'm putting a special hold on this item. It won't be displayed or sold until you have a chance to reclaim it." He tore off the paper and handed it to me. "This is a receipt showing the hold, and here's my card with my direct line. Call me if you have any questions before Monday." I accepted the papers with a grateful nod. "Thank you for understanding. I've been in this business 30 years, Mr. Barrett. I've seen all kinds of situations. Family disputes are always the hardest." He hesitated, then added, "For what it's worth, she seemed upset when she sold it. Almost changed her mind at the last minute." That small detail provided little comfort as I drove home. The neighborhood passed in a blur as I wrestled with everything that had happened. Audrey had betrayed my trust in the most personal way possible, and now I would have to pay to recover what was rightfully mine. But beneath the anger and hurt, questions nagged at me. Had I somehow driven her to this? Was I truly stuck in my grief as she claimed Martha would know how to handle this situation? She had always been better at understanding our daughter. At home, I pulled out our old photo albums and spent hours looking through images of happier times. Audrey as a gap-toothed child on Martha's lap. The three of us hiking in the Columbia River Gorge. Martha teaching teenage Audrey how to make her famous apple pie. When had our family fractured so completely? Was it only Martha's death, or had the cracks been forming before I called Audrey twice that evening? But both times the call went straight to voicemail. What would I even say? The damage was done. The broken trust would take far more than recovering the necklace to repair. As I prepared for another sleepless night, I gathered what cash I had at home, counting out just over $500. I would need to withdraw the rest from my emergency savings on Monday morning. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was emptying my safety net to buy back something that already belonged to me. I drafted several text messages to Audrey, but deleted them all. Nothing I wrote captured the complex mix of disappointment, anger, and sadness I felt. In the end, I sent just one line. "I know about the necklace. We need to talk when you're ready." My phone rang just as I was leaving for the pawn shop Monday morning. Seeing the shop's number on the caller ID, my heart sank. Had someone purchased the locket, despite Ray's promise to hold it? Mr. Barrett. "This is Ray from Hillside Pawn. I'm glad I caught you before you came in." "Is something wrong?" I asked, bracing myself for bad news. "Not wrong, no. But sir, you won't believe what we found when we opened the medallion on the pendant." Ray's excited voice sent a jolt through me. "What do you mean, opened the medallion? It's standard procedure for us to examine jewelry thoroughly before putting it out for sale," Ray explained. "We check for hallmarks, test the metals, look for any hidden compartments. When our jeweler examined your wife's locket, she discovered it could be opened in a way that wasn't immediately obvious." My mind raced. In 30 years, neither Martha nor I had ever opened the locket. We had assumed it was purely decorative, its heart shape symbolic rather than functional. "I'm coming right now," I said, already grabbing my keys. The 15-minute drive to Hillside Pawn seemed to take hours. How could we not have known the locket opened? What could possibly be inside that would cause Ray to call me? When I arrived, Ray was waiting a small envelope in his hands. "Mr. Barrett, thank you for coming so quickly. You said you found something inside the locket." I couldn't hide the urgency in my voice. Ray nodded, gesturing toward a small table in the corner, away from the main counter. "Please have a seat." Once we were settled, Ray carefully opened the envelope and removed the familiar gold heart locket. Seeing it again after the emotional roller coaster of the past few days brought tears to my eyes. "Watch closely," Ray said. He pressed his thumbnail into a nearly invisible seam along the edge of the heart and applied gentle pressure to opposite sides. With a soft click, the locket opened, revealing a tiny compartment within. "There's a folded piece of paper inside," Ray said, his voice reverent. "We didn't read it, of course. That wouldn't be ethical. But I thought you should know it was there." With trembling fingers, I accepted the open locket. Inside the small cavity was indeed a yellowed piece of paper folded into a tiny square. I carefully extracted it, aware that I was touching something that had been hidden away for years, perhaps decades. "Take your time," Ray said, standing up. "I'll give you some privacy." He moved away, busying himself with organizing a display case. The paper was delicate, threatening to crumble at the edges. I unfolded it with the care of a historian, handling a precious document which in many ways it was. Inside, written in the unmistakable handwriting I would recognize anywhere, was a short message. "My dearest Eugene, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. Know that my love remains in your heart, not in this necklace. The greatest treasure I leave behind is the family we created. Love each other well. Forever, yours, Martha." The world seemed to stop. Martha's voice was so clear in these words, I could almost hear her speaking them. When had she written this note? When had she hidden it in the locket that she never took off? It must have been during her illness. A final message she knew I would find someday. Tears flowed freely down my face as I read the message again and again. Martha, even in death, was still teaching me. My love remains in your heart, not in this necklace. Had I forgotten this fundamental truth? Had I transferred too much of my connection with Martha to this physical object, neglecting the living connection we shared through our daughter? The greatest treasure I leave behind is the family we created. Love each other well." It was both a blessing and a gentle admonishment. Martha had entrusted Audrey to me, and somewhere along the way, I had failed to nurture that precious relationship. When I finally looked up, Ray was watching me from a respectful distance, concern evident in his kind eyes. "It's a message from my wife." I explained, my voice hoarse with emotion. She must have hidden it during her illness. I never knew it was there. Ray nodded, as if such discoveries were commonplace in his line of work. Perhaps they were. How many objects passed through his hands, carrying hidden stories, secret messages, forgotten memories. "Mr. Barrett, in light of these special circumstances, I'd like to offer you the locket at cost. $800 what we paid for it." His generosity touched me deeply. "That's very kind of you, Ray. In 30 years in this business, I've learned that some things have value far beyond their price tag." He moved behind the counter to process the transaction. "Will that be cash or credit today?" As I reached for my wallet, the shop door opened, its bell jingling cheerfully. I turned automatically toward the sound and found myself looking directly at my daughter. Audrey stood frozen in the doorway, her eyes red and puffy. She was dressed simply in jeans and a sweatshirt, a stark contrast to her carefully curated appearance at our last meeting. For a moment, neither of us spoke, equally surprised by the other's presence. "Dad?" She finally broke the silence. "What are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing." I replied, too emotionally drained for anger. Audrey stepped fully into the shop, letting the door close behind her. "I came to buy back Mum's necklace." Her voice was small, remorseful. "I couldn't go through with it, Dad. I couldn't go on that trip knowing what I'd done." The admission hung in the air between us. Ray, sensing the delicate nature of the situation, tactfully stepped into the back room, leaving us alone in the front of the shop. "You called the pawn shop," I realized aloud. She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "This morning, I was going to surprise you, make it right before you even knew it was gone." She laughed bitterly. Too late for that, obviously. I studied my daughter, seeing beyond her defensive exterior to the confused, grieving young woman beneath. "Why, Audrey? Why take the necklace in the first place?" She sank onto a nearby stool, shoulders slumping. "I don't know. I was angry. Jealous, maybe." "Jealous of what?" "Of a necklace." She wiped at her eyes. "You treasure that thing like it's actually Mom. Meanwhile, I'm right here, her actual flesh and blood, and it feels like you don't see me at all." Her words struck me with the force of truth. Had I been so focused on preserving Martha's memory that I had neglected her living legacy? "Every day, I see you touch that necklace and say good morning to Mum," Audrey continued. "But when was the last time you really saw me?" Dad. Really asked how I was doing beyond our superficial breakfasts. I had no good answer. In my grief, I had maintained the routines of fatherhood without the emotional presence that made them meaningful. "I miss her too, you know," Audrey said, her voice breaking. "But it's like you're the official keeper of her memory, and I'm just peripheral." I moved to the stool beside her, the small folded paper still clutched in my hand. "Audrey, there's something you need to see." I showed her the hidden compartment in the locket and placed the delicate note in her palm. She read it silently, fresh tears streaming down her face. "When did she write this?" she whispered. "I don't know, but she knew we would need it someday." I placed my hand gently on her shoulder. She was right as usual. Audrey read the note again, tracing her finger over her mother's handwriting. "Love each other well," she repeated. We haven't been doing a very good job of that, have we? No, I admitted, but we can start now. Ray returned from the back room, clearing his throat softly to announce his presence. Everything okay out here? I looked at Audrey, who nodded through her tears. Yes, I answered. We're working things out. Glad to hear it. Ray smiled warmly. Family is too precious to lose over misunderstandings. As Ray processed the transaction, Audrey insisted on paying for the necklace herself. Please, Dad. Let me make this right. She handed over her credit card, the designer purse, and materialistic trappings of our last meeting noticeably absent. With the locket safely back in our possession, we left the pawn shop together. In the bright spring sunshine, we stood awkwardly beside our cars, the magnitude of our rift and the potential for healing both palpable in the air between us. Would you like to go somewhere and talk? I asked tentatively. Audrey nodded. Riverside Park, Mum's favorite bench. The suggestion touched me deeply. Martha had loved sitting by the Willamette River watching the boats and birds. We hadn't visited her favorite spot together since the funeral. I'll meet you there, I agreed. The park was quiet on a Monday morning, with only a few joggers and dog walkers enjoying the riverside path. Martha's favorite bench sat beneath an old oak tree, offering a perfect view of the water. We settled there side by side, the locket held carefully between us. I'm sorry, Dad. So sorry. Audrey's words came in a rush. I don't know what I was thinking. That's not true, actually. I wasn't thinking at all. I was just feeling hurt and resentful. I nodded, accepting her apology. I'm sorry too, Audrey. I've been so focused on my own grief that I haven't been there for you the way your mother would have wanted. For the first time in years, we talked openly about Martha's death and how it had affected each of us differently. Audrey confessed that she had been seeing a therapist, not just recently but on and off since her mother's passing. I didn't tell you because you seemed so together, she explained, like you had processed everything while I was still a mess. I laughed sadly. I wasn't together at all. I was just hiding my mess better. Mom's note, Audrey said, glancing at the locket in my hand. It's like she knew exactly what we would need to hear, even years later. She always did have an uncanny ability to anticipate what people needed. I agreed. But I think she would be disappointed in how we've drifted apart. Audrey looked out over the river, the spring sunlight illuminating her profile so like Martha's. Can we fix this, Dad? Really fix it? I believe we can if we both want to. I chose my next words carefully. But it will take more than one conversation. We need to rebuild trust and learn to communicate honestly. Maybe we could try grief counseling together, Audrey suggested. My therapist has mentioned group sessions before. The old me might have rejected the idea immediately, seeing it as unnecessary or intrusive. But Martha's words echoed in my mind. Love each other well. That required effort and openness to change. I think that's an excellent idea, I said, surprising both of us. We sat in companionable silence for a while, watching a pair of ducks navigate the river currents. When Audrey finally spoke again, her voice was thoughtful. You know what's ironic? I was so focused on getting away to Cancun, thinking a vacation would somehow fix everything wrong in my life. She shook her head. But sitting here talking honestly with you, I feel more peaceful than I have in years. Your mother always said, true peace comes from connections, not escapes, I replied. Audrey smiled a genuine smile that reached her eyes. I remember. She was right about so many things. As we prepared to leave the park, I made a decision that had been forming since reading Martha's note. I held out the locket to Audrey. I want you to have this. She shook her head, pushing my hand back gently. No, Dad. I don't deserve it after what I did. It's not about deserving, Audrey. Your mother wanted you to have this locket when the time was right. I placed the necklace in her palm and closed her fingers around it. I think she would say, that time is now. But it's your connection to her, Audrey protested, tears welling again. My connection to your mother is in my heart, not in this necklace, I said, echoing Martha's words, and through you. Every time I see your smile, the way you tilt your head when you're thinking I see her, you are my living connection to Martha. Audrey clutched the locket tightly. I don't know what to say. Say you'll treasure it. Say you'll remember what it represents. Say we'll keep working on being a family. I promise, she whispered. And maybe we could get a copy made, I suggested, so we can each have one. Audrey's face brightened. I'd like that. 1 year later, we stood together at Martha's grave on the anniversary of her passing. We each wore our matching lockets, the original now Audrey's, and a carefully crafted replica hanging around my neck. The past 12 months had brought significant changes to both our lives. Our joint grief counseling sessions had helped us develop healthier communication patterns and process the complicated emotions surrounding Martha's illness and death. Audrey had left her marketing job for a position at a non-profit supporting families affected by cancer, finding meaning in work that honored her mother's compassionate spirit. I had started volunteering at a local community center, teaching history to adults earning their GEDs, expanding my sense of purpose beyond the classroom and my grief. Most importantly, we had rebuilt our relationship on a foundation of honesty and mutual respect. Our weekly breakfasts became genuine connections rather than obligatory routines. We shared holidays' memories and even occasional disagreements with a new understanding of our different grieving styles. As we placed fresh flowers on Martha's grave, Audrey reached for my hand. Do you think she would be proud of us? I squeezed her fingers gently. I know she would. Later that evening, as had become our tradition, we each opened our lockets and read Martha's note aloud together. My dearest Eugene, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. Know that my love remains in your heart, not in this necklace. The greatest treasure I leave behind is the family we created. Love each other well. Forever yours, Martha. The words had become a guiding principle for us both, a reminder that while grief reshapes us, love sustains us, and family, when nurtured with care, can heal even the deepest wounds. Standing in my classroom the next day, I touched my replica locket as I prepared to welcome a new group of students. The gold felt warm against my skin, a tangible reminder of Martha's enduring wisdom. I had learned that grief is not something to overcome, but to incorporate into a life that continues to grow and change. The most precious legacies aren't objects we can hold, but the love we share and the connections we nurture. What treasures are you safeguarding in your life? Are they physical objects or the relationships with those around you? If this story touched you in any way, please hit that subscribe button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever discovered an unexpected message from a loved one that changed your perspective? I read every comment and would be honored to hear your stories. Thank you for joining me in this journey of healing and remembrance. And until next time, remember to love each other well.